Hello there, fellow peregrinos. Thanks once again for tuning in to El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, practicalities, and preparation for life on the road to Santiago, and tips, tricks, and hacks to make life along the way a little bit easier and a little bit more enjoyable. Today, we're talking to a lovely lady called Alison Hansell from Stalybridge in the UK. She's going to tell us about lots of things, her favourite albergue, her favourite town and city, and the one thing she took with her on the way that she definitely leave behind. All of that to come, but we started the interview with me, as always, asking her about how she decided to walk the Camino and why. Here's what she had to say.
Okay, so why did I decide to walk the Camino? So the truth was, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I totally lost my faith. So I stopped going to church, and I can say that I was in a complete rut.
Okay.
And 2.5 years ago, to add to that, my best friend took his own life, and it completely destroyed me. So I was tormented with the things that I could have done differently in the days leading up to his death, as I spoke to him the night before it happened, and it completely destroyed me, completely. So on the back of that, I decided to go on holiday on my own, never done it before, waited till my youngest turned 16, and I thought, right, it's my time now. So against all my friends and family's wishes, I thought, I'm going to go and tour Egypt on my own, which I went and did. And I absolutely loved it. And there I met a girl from South Africa. She lives in Cape Town, called Nancy, and we clicked straight away. Spent the full time together and said, you know, should we go and tour Morocco next year? So we met up in Marrakesh and we toured Morocco for 2 weeks, and then we were talking and we both said, you know what, we'd like to do a walking holiday. And we said, should we do the Camino? Thinking this is far out. So we committed to it and we said, well, yeah, let's do it. It helps us get over the holiday blues, and that was it. So when we returned, we started to research it and we put a schedule together and we went.
So when you made that decision to make walk the Camino, was it Morocco or Egypt where you eventually came up with a plan?
No, we was in Morocco.
Right, okay.
We was in Morocco, and my friend said, oh, I fancy doing a walking holiday. So I said, oh, so do I. I'd like to do that as well. So when that came together, we was like, right. And my friend Nancy, she would have liked to have walked it in May. Do that with being a teacher. The summer holidays off. I'm meant to do it with you, so let's do it when you're off as well. So that was when we decided.
So fast forward to this summer, you've just walked the Camino. Did that time on the road give you some new food for thought regarding the loss of your friend? Did it help you come to terms with it? How did it help you make sense of it all?
Well, I just think in the passing of my friend, I don't think you ever get over it. You just learn to live with it. And his picture was on my wall. I had to take that down about 2 New Year's Eves ago. And it was just, I felt like it was a burden. And when I researched the Camino, they said that at Cruz de Ferro, that you can leave your burdens there, or a burden. And I thought I had my sights set on that. So what I did before I went, I had like a little pebble that I used to keep on my desk that my friend had bought me. So I actually wrote his name on it, and that was going to be me letting go. So even though the climb to Cruz de Ferro was absolutely unbelievable, I knew that when I got to the top, I could leave that stone there. And it actually worked. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. So that's what I had in mind. That's what I set out to do. And that's what I actually did.
And would you say that's the way you finally found some peace?
I did. And I wasn't sad either, and I thought I would be, like, because when you arrive at Cruz de Ferro, there's no signs to say, oh, well, it's 100 meters away, it's this. You just turn a corner through some trees and it's there. So it was quite overwhelming, and as soon as I saw it, I thought, right, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And I did it. And I just think it was so magical because Nancy and I were there together. And without even saying anything, we knew that we had to go to the foot of the Saviour on our own. So we just dropped our bags, dropped our poles. And Nancy said, Ali, you go first. So I climbed up to the top and I just sat there. I just sat there for a few minutes and I gave him to God. That's what I did. And then when I'd finished, I came down and then Nancy went up for her own reasons. And it was just perfect. It was a perfect day, perfect surroundings. And I couldn't have wanted to do it any differently.
In some ways, that was your own personal send-off to him.
It was. And it was lovely.
And you mentioned that you'd lost faith a couple of years before you actually walked the Camino. Was that because of what happened to your friend, or was it something else? And did your time on the Camino and maybe coming to peace again with that episode of your life, did that reinforce your faith again? How is your relationship now with faith?
I just think that over the years, especially my adult years, things happen in your life. I've got 2 grown-up boys, 18 and 24, and things have happened with them. And I've stood by them like I would do as a loving mother. I am a single parent. And I just think when certain things happen in your life, like with friends, with family, with what's going on, I've questioned, well, is there a God? Is there really a God? And I felt I couldn't stand in church and go through communion and sing when I had all this ill feeling inside. And I did have ill feeling, and my parents never pressured me. They're churchgoers. My sisters never pressured me. They go to church as well. They just left me, and I felt like it was something that I had to figure out for myself. And I'm thinking, when I started on the Camino, like I said on one of my posts, I didn't go with a broken heart, but my heart was healed in so many ways. And that was the truth. I'm thinking, I wished everybody in the world behaved like they do on the Camino, and problems would just be at a minimal. I really, really do believe that, because the kindness and the compassion that Nancy and I were shown throughout our journey, I couldn't write it, and it'd be very, very difficult for me to explain, because it wasn't a thing, it was a feeling, every step of the way.
So in actual fact, the Camino did reinforce your faith, because it reinforced your faith in humanity in some ways.
Definitely. I mean, it was from the locals who, were just tending to the gardens, tending the crops, to somebody in an albergue who came to us, to a church. And there was just so many magical moments. And even seeing, robins, the bird. I mean, I never thought in a month of Sundays I would see robins in Spain. And I saw 4. And it wasn't just I saw them in a tree. They actually was about 2 foot in front of me. And it was moments like that I thought, you know what, we're being so looked after. And I think it stemmed from...
What did the robins signify for you? What are they symbol of?
I just think that we're being looked after. I never thought I'd see a robin in Spain. And I think it all stemmed from going to the Pilgrim's Mass that we attended in Burgos, where we started. It was at 7:30, and I said to Nancy, I think we really need to go. And she was like, right, that's all right. And I was absolutely overwhelmed. And they had 4, maybe 5 priests in the Mass. So it was like every 5th, paragraph you'd understand, because it was in English. and they invited us up for communion. I'd been confirmed, so I was going to go. Nancy was a little bit reluctant, and I was just overwhelmed, and I said, you've got to go, because I think this is going to be like the starting point, and this is going to be the pivotal point that's going to protect us. And she did go, and it was absolutely unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And I mean, half of it was in Spanish, well, probably 3/4 of it. But I seem to understand nonetheless. I seem to understand.
Yeah, you got the feeling and the positive vibe from it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that from even just the opening of our conversation, that you've managed to find peace, number one, for something that sounded like a very traumatic experience in your life, and number two, that you've restored your faith not only in religion but also in humanity, which is really important, and the journey as a whole helped you regain that. Let's talk about your journey as well. Where exactly did you start and why?
Okay, so we started in Burgos. The only reason was the time that we had to complete it, and not knowing how our bodies would deal with the walking. That's why we chose Burgos. And we also factored in 2 rest days. One was in Leon and one was in Sarria. And we also factored in buffer days at the end to use in case any of us got injured and we had to shorten our days. And if all went well, we'd spend a few days in Madrid. So that's why we started off in Burgos. So glad we did, because it's a beautiful city. It was just so lovely, and we spent so much time, walking round. We went to the Pilgrim's Mass, and that was the one and only municipal albergue we stayed in. Right. I will say that.
Okay, so maybe you had more a bit of a luxurious stay along the way. For those who wanted to start in Burgos, where did you fly to, and how did you get to Burgos?
Well, Nancy and I flew to Madrid. So this is a point to the listeners that if one of you is going on a European flight, one of you is going international, don't think that you're going to meet in the same place in the airport, because I was in Terminal 4 and Nancy was in Terminal 1, which is like one city to the next. So I just said to Nancy, stay put and I'll try and get the bus. So I had to get a 15-minute bus ride to her. So, yes, we met in Madrid, and then we got a tram into the centre, and then we ended up getting a bus that we booked on Rome to Rio.
Okay.
We got a bus to Burgos, so
Can you
that's
remember
how
the name
we
of
got
the bus
there.
company? Just out of, was it Alsa?
We booked... Yeah, Alsa, and we booked it through Rome to Rio, and it was brilliant. It was easy to find. They had Wi-Fi on the bus, they had USB ports, they had little screens that give you water and headphones. It was absolutely brilliant, and it just took us straight to Burgos, and it was lovely. Okay,
fantastic. So those who are going to looking to start in Burgos, all you got to do, as Alison says, is you can fly to Madrid. If you are both flying in on different flights, you might have to find a meeting point in the airport. Get into the city centre and get on a bus that you can book through RomeToRio.com. And the bus company is called Alsa, and their website is ALSA. I'm speaking Spanish there, .es, and you can book your ticket on there. So you mentioned that you'd gone to the municipal albergue in Burgos, which you absolutely loved. So let's start maybe at the rawest end of the Camino. Sounds like maybe you fancied something a little bit more upmarket after that. But how was your experience of that? How did you survive that night in the albergue, in the municipal? And how much did you pay, by the way, if you remember?
Right. I think it was about €8.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Which is not a lot. It was €8 to stay in it.
Yeah.
But we wanted to experience putting your backpacks outside to form a line, because I believe that's how you secure your place in the queue. If you put your backpack in the line, then you can go and have breakfast or lunch or whatever time it will be until it opens. So that's what we did, and we went and had something to eat. I think it was 160 beds. something like that. It was very, very dimly lit. So I was on the top and Nancy was on the bottom bunk. There were plastic mattresses, so quite uncomfortable, very, very warm.
Sticky, yeah.
Yeah, very sticky, and it was very, very dimly lit, so you couldn't really see anything. But there was a positive thing to come out of that, because I met my first pilgrim friend, a man from Christian who was originally from Mexico. So we exchanged details with him and had a chat with him. So the first night didn't get that much sleep, even though I wore silicone earplugs and an eye mask. I think I heard everything. But I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did it because I wouldn't want to do it again.
It's a good story to tell, isn't it? Yeah, good story to tell.
Oh, yeah. If I had
what would you say to those pilgrims that do that for 30 nights on the trot?
They deserve a medal or an extra award when they get to Santiago, because it is something else. Because even turning over in your bed, if you turn over, someone is telling you to shush.
Really?
Do you know it? Yeah, yeah. So, and I remember saying to Nancy, you know, have you got like a something? And I asked her one question that had about 6 words in it, and there was a shh.
It's really funny because, like, I mean, I had kind of a similar opinion and experience of my first night was in Roncesvalles, which is, you know, way back in the Pyrenees kind of thing. But I found that after 2 or 3 nights, the first night was really unsettling. Even in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France, that was a tough one. But after a while, you just get used to it. So I do appreciate, especially if you've only got 2 weeks, that you might not want it to seem like such an ordeal, that it's, you know, it's your holiday at the end of the day. But for those that are, you know, planning on staying in albergues for a month or so, you do find that you do get used to it. And though the first couple of nights are unsettling, you're so tired by the time you get there on your third and fourth and fifth days. And, you know, as you move on to a month on the road, if you're doing the whole, you know, from France to Santiago or finish there, that you do get used to it. But I completely understand why you wouldn't want to do that if you didn't have the luxury of time and it was, you know, a holiday and you didn't want it to seem like an ordeal. So by the sounds of it, you tried it. It wasn't for you, and you know, you can tell the story, and that's a funny thing in itself. And like you say, the positive is you made a friend as well. So
yeah, I did, and he actually emailed me throughout my Camino, and he was like advising us to go here and go there, which was really nice. And we've kept in touch ever since, so that's really good. And we only met him on like the first day.
Brilliant.
So that was really nice.
Right, so you made a friend, but something that definitely isn't a pilgrim's friend are blisters. Did you get them? If you did, how did you deal with them? Any coping strategies, any tips you can give to those that are about to go on the road?
Okay, so blisters, I didn't get a single one. I'm a walker.
Do you walk
well,
home?
I am a walker and a creature of habit. But we met up, Nancy and I, in Madrid. We was obviously WhatsApping each other with our packing lists and things we'd forgot, things that, you know, we had to remind each other to take. And I decided, and this is the truth, that I would buy 5 pairs of cotton socks from Amazon, and they cost me £2.99. They were black socks, cotton trainer socks, and I wore Solomon trekking trail trainers that I'd had for 2 years. And I thought, I'm going to stick with this. So my friend Nancy, she said, well, I've bought Injinji socks. For those that don't know, they're like gloves for feet, where all your toes are in separate compartments. She bought some Merrell walking shoes, a size bigger, and she bought double line socks. And I just thought I could do this, but from experience, I thought I'm just going to stick with what I know and just leave it at that. And I bought black socks because I thought if I'm going to have to rinse them out in cold water with a bar of soap, it's not going to show up the dirt. I'm not going to have to scrub and scrub and scrub. So I just stuck to that. So I did not get a single blister. and my friend lost 3 or 4 toenails. She lost 4 toenails, and she had a bullet wound blister on one foot, and on the other foot she had like a blister. Well, it looked like the continent of Africa.
And this was even though she wore those special Injinji blister socks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just stuck to wearing cotton socks, and then I changed them regularly. I, stopped whenever I felt like I wanted to. I took my socks off, I dried them on my backpack, put a fresh pair on, because I read on the forum somewhere that your feet are going to get sweaty. Where possible, like air your socks, air your feet, and I stuck them in streams, in brooks, wherever I could. If we stopped for like a drink or orange juice, I took my shoes off, took my socks off, and changed them for a fresh pair. That's the best thing you can do.
So your advice for busting blisters or preventing them, would say, would be change your socks regularly, have clean ones ready to put on as well, air your feet wherever you can. And
definitely.
You also, like you said, you'd had those trail running shoes for nearly 2 years. So you stuck to what you knew. Your feet were already toughened up to them. And what about your friends, just out of interest, the Merrell walking shoes, which you said were a size bigger, were they new ones or were
No,
they...
she had worn them in, but like prior to going, we was talking about our first aid kits, and like with every payday from about like Christmas, so when we went, I bought a pack of Compeed from the UK. So I must have had Compeed to, I don't know, well, everybody on the Camino probably could have used them. I took that many, just in case. But she, it's probably like 3 days in, and she started getting like a hot spot on her foot that just developed. And then I went for a shower like one evening, and I came out and she went, I've cut the top off it. I thought, oh dear. And she had this like raw red bullet wound, probably the size of a 50p piece, just under her toes. But I just felt fortunate, because we saw some shocking blisters on the Camino.
Yeah, I mean,
like
you stuck to what you knew,
I know, and I felt like, maybe, and I just said to her, if we could swap a foot, I would gladly do that, like to ease her pain. Because I felt like, I don't know why I didn't get any, but I just like stuck with what I knew. And my sister's partner, Anthony, he's an avid walker, and he gave me some advice about blisters. And I thought, I'm just going to stick with what I know and stick to it. And that's what I did. And I didn't get any.
So you stuck to the winning formula, and luckily
I know.
you walked in pain-free bliss. I mean, it's interesting because you probably won't have heard it, but in the episode before this one, I did an episode especially on blisters, because I did see some absolutely terrible blisters along the way. I've had blisters in all my Caminos, whether I've worn boots that I've broken in or not. And it's definitely a problem that plagues us all along the way. So you were definitely very, very fortunate. And also you've gone against some advice there in that I've seen many blister advice articles and heard podcasts, and they all say to not wear cotton socks because that they sweat more. But by the sounds of it, you were changing them regularly, and you had clean socks to put on, and you were giving your feet air. So it really is, I think, it's if everyone knew the perfect formula for not getting blisters, no one would get them. So I think it is just a case of trial and error, finding what works for you, trying out some of the advice. And you'd obviously, broken in your boots, and you knew what works for you, and it's worked for you again. So
it did.
Yeah. So you were very, very fortunate. Let's dive into something else in your kit list. Was there one thing that you took with you that you think you couldn't have done without, and you would recommend that all people walking the Camino take with them?
Right. Well, there was a couple of things. I know you just said one, but
give us two. Two's better than one.
I know. I took over-the-counter Nitol, one a night. So they were like sleeping tablets, and I did share them out. So there was other pilgrims that couldn't sleep, and I did take one about half an hour before I was about to go to sleep. I could not have done without those. And also I took, the emergency ponchos.
Yeah.
So I was in Tesco, like my local supermarket, probably about 3 months before I was about to fly out to Madrid. And they were on sale for like 60 pence or something. Wow. And I bought 3. And I am so, so glad I took them, because it absolutely poured down probably about 10 times in the 4 weeks I was out there. And I just think it was easy, dragged them out of the pocket at the back of my backpack, and it covered the whole of me. Yeah. And I wasn't bothered about spoiling them. And as soon as it stopped raining, I just ripped it off, like put it in the elastics at the back of my backpack, and they dried out. Could not have done without nightall and emergency ponchos. My friend took like a proper jacket, but when it started to rain, she had to take a rucksack off. She had to get it out. She had to put it on, zip it up. Then she had to put a waterproof over a rucksack. So time consuming. Emergency ponchos, you cannot go wrong.
And in all
as
that
soon
time,
as we ended up...
Yeah, in all that time, you're getting soaked as well, where you're trying to get something out of your backpack. So.
Yeah, and then as soon as I got to Madrid, I just took them all out of my bag and put them in the bin. Brilliant. Emergency ponchos, you cannot go wrong with these things.
Best 60p you ever spent, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it was.
Or should I say £1.80? But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting you say that you have to have anything waterproof that you might need at the drop of a hat, easily accessible in your backpack. Because I made that mistake as well when I was walking the Camino Portuguese with my fiance. It started to throw it down because I got very complacent. It had been sunny most of the time. It started to throw it down, and yeah, just like your friend, I had to dig into the bottom of my backpack, underneath all my other stuff, get it out. And by the time I'd actually got the poncho over me, I was soaked. So definitely have it easily deployable in a side pocket or a top pocket of your backpack. And that 60p will work its magic.
Yeah, I know, it really did. It really did.
So a bit of poncho magic there. What about something that you... it's quite funny because if you ever look at yourself wearing a poncho, me and my fiancée Rachel...
I look an absolute idiot.
Yeah, you
really did.
We called ourselves the poncho plebs. But anyway... it was you kind of look at your conical reflection in the, and it's kind of, is this really me walking down the street? But you're dry, and you're walking past people living their everyday life, and with umbrellas, and you're just strolling past with like 10k on your
I know, and my 60p and my 60p poncho.
60p poncho, like, yes. I am living the dream. So from the poncho to the thing that you couldn't live without, and obviously the sleeping tablets, is there one thing you took with you that you'd never take again if you were to go again?
Right, this is a tongue-in-cheek now.
Go for it.
Because I bought 4 packets of Compeed and never used them. I gave them away.
Right, okay.
I know. So, this is touch wood on like a massive scale, because I did not need them, thank goodness, but I gave them away to people who did need them. So I'd say that I did take them and I didn't need them for myself, but I took them maybe because other people may have needed them.
Yeah.
So that's my one item, I think, that I didn't use myself.
It's funny, like getting back to blisters and Compeed, because when I was in Burgos, actually, and I had some bad blisters prior to that, there was like a medical team that came into the albergue area. Did you stay in the one with the log cabin albergue in the park kind of thing?
No,
right,
no,
okay,
but we stayed in something similar, and that's my crying story.
Right, okay, we'll look forward to this then. We'll save the best till last.
Okay.
But yeah, one of this kind of foot nurse, she said to me, like, she swore that I shouldn't use Compeed, and it was really, really bad. And maybe a better alternative would be sports tape if you do have a hot spot, to put sports tape over it instead of Compeed. Because when I actually had some Compeed on and I ripped them off, sorry if you've just eaten, but
it takes all your skin off.
Takes the skin off with it, and then you, like you said, you just live with this raw piece of stinging skin, and It's really an unpleasant sensation. So if you are looking for some more advice on blisters, go and listen to episode 4 of this podcast. And we've got 6 ways or 5 ways, I think it was, to bust blisters. So that's another topic for another episode. So we've got your crying story still to come. We look forward to that. Is there anything you bought on the way that you wish you'd packed before leaving?
Definitely. I bought some Skull gel insoles for my footwear, just for extra comfort. And I've actually compared prices. I don't even know why I've done this, but I paid €19 for them.
Right.
In Spain. And then when I came home and had a look, they were probably £6. So I just think if I could have done the journey again, I probably would have bought them back home and took them, because I found that in every pharmacy in Spain, Compeed and everything for the feet was so much more expensive because, if you're stuck and you need things. So I wish I'd bought gel insoles over here beforehand. And the second was mosquito repellent. And if I can possibly have a third, antihistamine tablets.
Okay. A bit of hay fever, was it?
No, not at all. I just became unstuck. It was Castilian. It was walking by a canal, and I think we did that early morning, probably about 5:30 in the morning, and we walked 6 kilometres by the canal, which was still water, and I got absolutely attacked by mosquitoes.
Right.
Like, really bad, really bad.
So insect repellent definitely is something you take.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The spray, like the insect repellent, and definitely antihistamines, because I paid a fortune for medication in the pharmacy, after the event. So I wish I'd took those.
Okay, so anyone listening that thinks mosquitoes normally like taking a little bite out of them, definitely invest in a little bit of that. And you said the inner soles for your trail runners, right?
Yeah, the gel insoles,
the gel insoles for your trail runners. And the antihistamine. Sorry, if I've missed something, but is it because you suffer from hay fever, or is it that? What's that? What's the purpose of that?
No, it's because at home, I should have known this already, but at home, if I get bitten by a horsefly or a midge or whatever it is, I react quite bad.
Oh, okay.
So when I was away, I got bit really bad, across both arms, all across my legs, all across my tummy, and the itching was unbearable.
Right.
And when it happened, I think was going into Fromester. So we weren't at a chemist until we went to Sahagun, which was, I don't know how many kilometres away.
Yeah.
And I suffered for it must have been 2 days before I could get to a proper pharmacy.
Oh, so that helped you deal with the bites, basically?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it just stopped the itching. Well, not much, but calmed it down a little bit.
Right.
And took away the inflammation as well. But if anyone's going out, about to set off before Burgos and is prone to insect bites, definitely take some antihistamine, because I think I paid €10 for 7 tablets.
Yeah, you can get those for £1 in Asda
29 pence.
Yeah.
I know.
If you're in America, you'll get them for cheap in Walmart or whatever. Yeah. So
I know, but definitely just take some, because don't get caught out like I did.
Great advice. Thank you very much for that. Now let's talk about some of your favourite stuff rather than some of your challenges. What was your favourite albergue or place you stayed? Because it sounds like you only stayed in one albergue. So a favourite place you stayed. Could be a hotel, could be an albergue, a private one, hostel, wherever.
So my favourite place had to be Leon.
Right.
It was so special as we met quite a lot of the other pilgrims we bumped into along the way. And after that, we didn't see them again. So I suppose Leon was my favourite place. However, my favourite albergue must have been the monastery at Sahagun.
Right.
So we stayed with priests that night in the monastery, and they made us feel so welcome. And I was suffering with really bad mosquito bites that night. And we walked there in the pouring rain. I'd just been able to get to a pharmacy to get some antihistamines and some cream for my bites. And I was so upset. And I think when we rang the bell and they let us in, I just burst out crying. I was just so emotional because I was soaking wet through. My skin felt like it was crawling, and I just burst out crying. And I just, like, the priest said, "Oh, is it bed bugs?" And I said, "No, it's mosquito bites." And they gave us a room on our own, and it had a private bathroom, and it had a bath. So I was so excited.
So you had a good soak in.
I just sat in the bath and I just cried. And I just think, you take so many things for granted. But that day, I was just so low. I was so low. And I thought, I'm just in agony. And I'm like, no one can help me. Do you know what I mean? It's like my friend had her blisters, but she had stuff to put on her feet. Who can help me? No one. And this poor priest, I just said, I'm just upset. I'm all right, but I'm just in a bad way. And he just took us to our room. And it was just beautiful. And it was just 2 single beds. And it had a cross above the bed. And it had, an open window. And we could hear the church bells ringing. And when I opened the bathroom door, there was a bath. And that is all I wanted. So for the best albergue, I'd say it was the monastery at Sahagun.
So the
and if you've got an opportunity to stay there, please do, because they are so accommodating and such beautiful people.
And
they really are.
Your spirits.
They did. It was just what I needed.
I think moments like that often on the Camino are quite defining as well, because that's the moment where you look back and think, you know what, if I can get through that, I can get through anything.
Yeah.
And as cliched and as cheesy as it sounds, these aren't challenges that we normally encounter in everyday life. And most people would go on a holiday and go and sit around a pool for 2 weeks and do nothing and just eat all-inclusive food and drink all-inclusive drinks. But you've gone out and walked, 20, 30, however many kilometres a day, braving the elements, braving mosquitoes, dealing with bites and, all kinds of challenges and obstacles. And it's just that sometimes that little extra special welcome that just makes everything extra special and turns an ordinary day into an extraordinary day. And I think those are the reasons that people do get addicted to the Camino and the challenges and the buzz of being outdoors. And I think that's what, at the end of the day, that's what us humans are programmed for. We are programmed to be outside in the elements, dealing with things like this. And I think in some ways, though it's some kind of suffering with this, the growth that comes from that suffering that gives us that pleasure and we can look back on. And I love hearing stories like that and moments like that, because they are the defining moments many times of people's journeys. So it's nice to hear that that place, the monastery albergue in Sahagun was the place you'll remember, and probably because it was one of the most difficult days.
Yeah, it was.
So, talking of good places, was there a place you didn't stop, you were walking through, but thought, you know what, I wish I'd have stayed here, or if I'm going to come back and do the Camino, I'm going to stay here next time?
I think we spent just enough time in everywhere, because we knew that it was just, like a fleeting visit.
Yeah.
And I think I'd already accepted that before we went. So I knew that I couldn't get attached to, like a certain place or a certain town or a certain albergue. I knew that we were just there for a short amount of time, that I didn't want to nap. I felt like I didn't want to sleep. Like some pilgrims, got to a place and, they had to sleep for a few hours. And I knew that is not what I wanted to do. So I tried to stay awake. I tried to speak to the locals, speak to the albergue owner, enjoy the facilities. And I do think that, we stayed just enough. I mean, there's albergues that I wish that, oh goodness, do you do 2 nights here? Because there was albergues with pools, with hammocks that, sell delicious food and different things. But I do feel that there was a reason why we just stayed the amount of time we did, because there was no getting attached to people. And that is what I would struggle with the most. It's like, you know, meeting people, getting attached, enjoying the company. And it's that I didn't really want to do, because that's what I struggle with. So when we stayed somewhere, we were shown the hospitality that we were shown. We were shown the compassion. People helped us. People went beyond what they really had to do. And then because we left, especially in the Meseta stages, like the early stages of the Camino, we was up at about 5 o'clock and ready to go by 15:15. So I didn't really feel that, oh, I would have liked to have stayed here longer, or I would have liked to have stayed here throughout. And I think we planned a rest day in Sarria and we forgot it. I thought, I don't want to stay here. We just carried on.
So you wanted to keep the momentum going?
Yeah, we did, because I felt when I got up in Sarria, I thought, it looks like a fairground. It looks like a theme park. There were so many people, you know, starting off doing the 100 kilometres.
Yeah.
I just thought, I don't like it, and I really struggled. I really struggled with that morning.
In some ways, I'm glad you said that, because I felt quite bad about myself, really, that when I got to Sarria, I felt it was a bit of a pantomime as well. And sadly, I felt there was a lot of people joining the trail in Sarria that were there more for a party than a pilgrimage.
Definitely.
For me personally, it wasn't how far people were walking on the Camino. You know, if they're just walking 100 kilometres, brilliant. As far as I was concerned, the more the merrier. But it was the spirit in the way they were walking the trail.
Definitely.
That people weren't always as considerate in the albergs. You know, they'd be up late talking, and while people that are obviously have maybe already got 900 kilometres in their boots were trying to sleep, and they didn't really understand the ethos, and they weren't as respectful as those I felt that had walked further. So
Definitely.
In some ways, you make me feel less guilty for feeling like that, because I have always felt guilty for feeling like that, but that was just my experience, and it sounds like it was your experience as well. So
it was,
and it also sounds like that. You know, you squeezed as much out of every place you stayed in as you could. Like I say, you didn't snooze a siesta. You did go out and talk to people. You interacted with the locals. You interacted with your fellow pilgrims, and that's nice to hear that. You know, you got as much as you possibly could out of every place, and so you left, you know, with peace of mind that you'd seen and done enough, and was, you know, happy to move on.
Yeah, we were, and it's like when we stayed in Sarria, we did our washing and everything else, and I said to Nancy, you know, probably about 8 o'clock, 8:30, we're ready to get to sleep. And I mean, I'm not disrespecting this family, but there was a family there. I think they were French. I don't know. Came in at like 9:45 and was really loud and stuff. And it was just disheartening, you know, and they were having the bags shipped on. And there's Nancy and I thought, we're carrying ours. We're carrying our bags. You know, and they were really loud. There was a bit of ill feeling. And then when we woke up and we like went outside, there was like hundreds and hundreds of people, and they were all fashion conscious, and there was us.
Do you know what, Alison? You make me feel a lot better about how I felt, because everything you're saying is mirroring exactly my sentiments about how the Camino became in Sarria. And for me, like I just, you know, reiterate, it wasn't about how far they were walking. It wasn't whether they were carrying their backpacks or not. It was just the spirit in which they were doing it and treating it more of a party than a pilgrimage. I mean, that's absolutely fine, but there are people like you that, you know, were carrying your own bags. That doesn't make you any better or worse. It's just obviously for those that have got ailments and injuries or, you know, knee problems, that's a massive help. But whether you're carrying your own bags or whether you're walking 100 or 800 kilometres, just be respectful, considerate when people are sleeping in the albergs. Just be conscious of that and try and keep your noise down. Prepare your bags outside the rooms, not inside the rooms while people are sleeping. And I have to admit, when I woke up one morning, I can't remember exactly where it was, but it was somewhere around Astorga, something like that, and there would have been a load of loud people. And these people were yeah, they were making a lot of noise the night before, and I just thought, shall I put some rocks in their backpack? Shall I do it? Shall I not? Shall I take the laces out of the boots? Shall I or shall I not? I didn't, but I'm not going to lie. The thought definitely crossed my mind.
I know.
Just as a bit of childish revenge. But anyway, I didn't do it, and I never would. But it did cross your mind. Such is the change of clientele, the change of people that you meet around the 100-kilometer mark. So that is part of the personal growth as well. It is part of the character building, because, you know, in some ways it is a gift that you are able to, you know, practice patience and maybe you can start looking at the positives, because, you know, when I was thinking things like this, I was thinking, well, I've paid £5 to stay here, so that's a positive. So if I paid 50 quid to stay here or 100, it might be different. I might be throwing my rattle out of the pram, but I've only paid £5. That's a good thing. I'll stick my earplugs deeper into my ears and just try and ignore it. But it's not easy. That's, you know, it's easier said than done. But any other lessons from, you know, your time on the road? Hello. Sorry, I lost you there, Alison.
Oh, it's all right. I'm still here.
Right. I don't know if you heard my last question. Were there any other lessons from your time on the road?
I don't think I do a single thing differently. I don't think anything can prepare you for the Camino but the Camino. So you pack up, preferably without plastic bags, because I believe pilgrims with plastic bags are like the most despised people on the pilgrimage. And if you want to take photos, do so. You know, and if you want to stop, you must. Every day, I think something different got my attention. And I'm so glad I walked it rather than went on a bicycle, because those people on bicycles, they must have missed so much. And I passed one. Well, there was one like really, really bad accident that happened in front of me. And I often think about that boy, wondering what happened to him and if he was all right. I couldn't help because I've not got like first aid experience, but I just think on a bike, I know you get the same Compostela at Santiago, but I just think walking, it's a completely different experience. It really is.
And in terms of lessons, if there was a takeaway from your time in the Camino that you can apply to everyday life, were there any standout insights? Or because sometimes these insights come with time and they don't always come straight after the Camino. Was there anything you're traveling back home thinking, I'm going to do this differently from now on, or I'm not going to do any of that again? Anything that stands out?
I wouldn't do a single thing differently, and not a single thing, because every day I woke up and I thought, right, here we go, I'm ready to walk. And I did, and every day something different stood out to me. And I'm thinking, one particular day we was walking, and it was quite a long stretch, and was walking, and I remember thinking, who planted the trees on this side of the road? They got it wrong. They could have done with planting the trees on the other side of the road to stop the sun from getting us. So we was walking, and I was just drawn to the wildflowers. So Nancy was like going ahead, and every so often I just stopped and I took a photograph of them, and some were pink, some were purple, some were yellow. And I included them in the video that I was going to post on Facebook for family and friends. And I thought, I sound really pathetic here. But that's what I was drawn to. And I remember saying in my video, I don't know why, but I've been drawn to the wildflowers on the way. And I included all these flowers. And my mum said to me, and so did my friend, this was the best video yet. Like every day I was drawn to something quite different. And I think if you were on a bike, you'd miss that. Yeah. You'd miss that. But I didn't. So that day I was just drawn to the wildflowers, and it was just beautiful. It was lovely.
So you're glad that you made the decision to walk it, because it helped you connect with everything that was going on around you, the sights, the sounds, the smells?
Definitely. And there were times, and Nancy said to me, you know, if such a thing happens or if whatever happens, you know, we can get the bus. And I thought, I'm not getting the bus. I'm just not. Like, we met a couple of pilgrims along the way that for one reason or another decided to jump 52 kilometres, like whatever. And I just said to Nancy, while I can walk, I'm going to walk. And I'm so glad that I did, because there were weak moments in both our lives, our stories, that we could have. But I just said, we need to do this properly and just to walk it. And we did it. We did it.
Yeah, I mean, so for those that are taking a bus, sometimes they've got, I guess, pressing issues of time, or maybe, there's an injury they want to get a rest from. But I think you do get the most out of your Camino if you're walking it non-stop through hiking the Camino. Yeah, totally agree with you on that one. And for those thinking about walking the Camino, but they're sitting on the fence about whether they should go or not, what would you say to convince them that it's the right thing to go?
If you can walk, do it. Because they say that the Camino de Santiago is directly under the Milky Way. And when I read and researched and everything, they said that miracles do happen and that you'll be looked after and that the Camino provides. And I had that thought in my mind before I went. I thought, the Camino will provide. So don't worry about booking accommodation. Don't worry about food. Don't worry about water. The Camino will provide. And you know, it actually does. It actually does, because I was not worried in the slightest. And I'm thinking, when we was on the way, we passed shrine upon shrine upon shrine of people that didn't make it, of people that had fallen along the way. And, you know, I just stopped, I had a moment, and I carried on. I think I'm just a normal girl from Stalybridge. You know, I've not got any huge walking experience, or I'm not someone who's heavily into outdoor pursuits. I'm just a normal girl, and I thought I can do this. I can do it, and I did. And I just think anyone who can walk, who can live on the basics of life, I'd say go and do it. Go and do it, because it's just brilliant. And it is life-changing, but it's life-changing for everybody in different ways. Not everybody gets the same thing out of it.
So if what you're saying is, if you can do it, and you describe yourself as just a normal girl from Stalybridge, I'm sure there's a lot more to you than that, Alison, because by the sounds of it, you know, you're a teacher and a mother of 2 boys and a very good friend. But, you know, if you can do it, anyone can do it.
Definitely, definitely.
And you said, you know, everyone gets different things out of it. On the plane home, since you've been home, I know you've not been home a long time. What do you feel you did get out of it? You know, peace of mind from your friend passing away, a restoration of your faith, anything else? Any other life lessons? Any takeaways that you could say, thanks to the Camino, I've had this aha moment? It doesn't always have to be like that. For some people, you know, they've just walked and they've got, you know, maybe they've lost some weight, maybe they feel fitter, maybe they feel more positive, more empowered. Anything for you?
I feel like if you've got 2 of something, you can afford to give something away. And the only example I've got is we met a pilgrim from Australia. She won't mind me mentioning her name. She's called Angela. And she had a day pack, and she was sending a luggage to the next stop. And she said, I'm really struggling to dry my socks. And she's like, I could just do with a safety pin. And I had 2, and I thought I can afford to give one away. So that's what I did. And I gave one away. And I think that is, I don't know, it was just one of them moments that I thought, yeah, if you have got 2 of something and you only need one, we'll give the other away.
That's a nice thought,
so
actually, yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the moments that I thought, I'll remember this. I will remember it. And it's like everybody was willing to help you if they could. So if they had two of something, they could afford to give you something. So that was one of the main things.
So yeah, whatever, and that's something we can apply to life as well, isn't it? I mean, if you've got too much of something, not necessarily just two of something, but too much of something, you can always afford to share or donate. And even if it's something as simple as walking along the street and you see a homeless person, you've got a fiver in your pocket. Do you need that fiver? And relating that to the Camino, you've mentioned it before that people often on the Camino, whether it's locals or whether it's your hospitaleros in the albergues, people often go above and beyond for you. And
yes,
I
really
experienced that in a park in Burgos. There was a big festival going on. A load of locals. They had just plates and plates and plates of paella. They just came and donated these massive saucepans, pans of paella for all the pilgrims that were staying there. And those kind of things happen on a daily basis. And I could actually see how some people do walk the Camino penniless, and applying that to your post-Camino revelations. If you have got two of something or too much of something, you can afford to give it away. And that, in essence, is the Camino spirit of sharing and, for want of a better word, and sounding very very cliched, sharing and caring. And it is that spirit and that ethos along the way that does make your time so special. Even like you're walking past a house. I don't know if you ever saw this, but I saw this on a few occasions. And just outside someone's house, they've just got like a water cooler where you could just pour yourself a drink. And it says, no money, just free, get yourself a drink. And the fact that people just think to do that for people is, you like you say, you wish everyday life could be like every day on the Camino, where people are caring and looking out for each other. In some ways, that restored your faith in humanity, which is lovely to hear, and a happy ending to your Camino in a way. And we're talking about the some of the good things. What would you say is the hardest part of the Camino?
Oh, the hardest part. Oh, if I'm honest, the meseta.
Tell us why.
So for numerous reasons, it was hot, with little shade. I was worried that I wasn't drinking enough, and it was at that point that I saw the bicycle accident. So we was going up like a slope, and it was like white rocks that you could slip easily on. So he like came past me, like zooming past me, and it was a young boy. And then there was a summit, and then he went over this streak of a screen. Never forget it. I'll never forget it. And I said to Nancy, what on earth is that? And when we got to the top, there was like a farmer waving his arms. And then when we got down, there was a boy in a ditch, and he had skin tears like you can never imagine. He was in such a bad way. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. So he'd gone over the top and then gone down the other side and lost control and ended up in a ditch. And I felt my backpack weighed so heavy on this stage. It really did. And it was just, when is it going to end? Because there was just no shade. And when we got to like the next stop, my friend Nancy, she inquired about she said it was okay. I think the ambulance came, he is walking, but obviously he's had to forfeit his Camino. And that stayed with me quite a lot. I thought, I wonder how he is, and I wonder how he's doing, and stuff like that.
So it's kind of when your mother,
I suppose that was the hardest part.
Your motherly instinct kicked in there.
I struggled.
Yeah.
So
it was hard.
He was crying.
It was hard for numerous reasons. Then one, because there are memories of the lad coming off his bike, and two, because it is bloody hard, the meseta, isn't it? I mean, for those who don't know, between Burgos and Leon, there's around about 200 kilometres of pretty much flat terrain, but it's very, very dry, very, very barren. Shade is very sparse, and you sometimes have to walk.
It's underestimated.
You sometimes have to.
It's underestimated.
And you sometimes have to walk quite far distances between where you can get water and where you can stay. For those that are about to embark upon the meseta, what advice would you give?
Oh, well, take an extra pair of shorts and don't be afraid to change mid-meseta, because I actually, because of the chaffing between my legs, like created a hole in my shorts.
Right.
And I said, Nancy, I'm going to have to change. And I thought, it is what it is. I'm on the meseta and I'm just going to have to do it. So I had to get out of the shorts that I was in and put a fresh pair on, take plenty of water and just take it slow. Just make sure you've got plenty of water, you know, even if it's between two of you or something like that, and just cover it. Because there are long stretches with no water, with no shade.
Yeah.
So just take plenty of water. That's all I can say. And just be prepared for every eventuality.
Yeah, so plenty of water, maybe some Vaseline for the chafing. And maybe a change of clothes if you need to along the way, which isn't always easy if you're trying to travel light. So we're going to ask you about the best part of the Camino, and then we'll wrap things up. What do you think is the best thing about the Camino for you, Alison?
Okay, so the best part of the Camino has to be interacting with people on the way, pilgrims, priests and nuns giving us a blessing, which was amazing. Regular people offered us fresh fruit and juice and the use of the bathrooms, and all the pilgrims looked out for each other and were willing to help us and, tell us things and give us things that we needed. That was probably the best part of the Camino.
So the best part. The brotherhood, the spirit of brotherhood along the way.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. It really, really was. And I think it was one part where we pulled into this town and I was really tired and there was a long way, a short way. I said, let's take the short way, but it was an up and over. And we, this lady beckoned us into a church and we thought, okay, let's go. Went into this church and we just sat down and thought, I just need a minute, Nancy. And she was like, yeah, that's fine. So I sat down and the priest started singing. So we just sat there and the priest was singing on his own. And then the lady that invited us in started harmonising. And it was just unbelievable. And that gave me the push to go forth. I thought, and I was absolutely overwhelmed. I was crying, and she gave us a beautiful, beautiful necklace with a cross on it. And I thought, I've got the strength to go on now. I have. And we did, and we made it. And it was so difficult, but we did it. And I just think the people that we've met along the way have been unbelievable. And I'll remember them for the rest of my life. I really will.
And these aren't the kind of people that you come across in everyday life, are they?
No.
In everyday life on the Camino you do, but you don't, and that's why they stick with you. And it is the people that, like you said, that raise your spirits along the way when you're feeling like you've maybe reached the end of your tether, like that day you said in Sahagun, where the priest gave you that private room with the bath, and you was able to kind of heal your bites and stuff. And when you were on a low as well, the priest and this lady that beckoned you in did the same for you there. So
definitely,
yeah, that's a lovely story as well. Okay, so we're going to finish a parting piece of advice for anyone about to walk the Camino. Let's say tomorrow, for example. What would you say?
Okay, if you've lost your faith, walk the Camino. If you want to feel peace, walk the Camino. If you feel like, I don't know, life is rushing by, walk the Camino. I walked the Camino with an open mind, and I found myself looking at wildflowers along the way, standing in awe of sunsets, saying a prayer for those that died along the way as I passed shrines at the end. I was truly thankful that I was alive and well, and the love I felt for my family and friends was all I could think about. That's about it. About it.
Would you say you came back from the Camino feeling, let's say, more positive about life and more empowered and ready to go again for work?
Well, I came back to work, and God forgive me for saying this, but my boss said, "Did you do it?" And I went, "Of course I did." And she went, "Was it life-changing?" And I said, "I wouldn't say life-changing. I'd say I see the world in a different way, and that's all. That's how I left it. And no one's asked me anything about it since, but I just feel at peace and at ease. And I just feel that the world is an amazing place, and what it has to offer is amazing as well, and that everyone should enjoy it for what it is. Don't be like my friend Lee and give up too early. That's what I'd say.
Well, let's dedicate this podcast to your friend Lee. And, you know, it's lovely to hear that you got the peace that you was looking for at Cruz de Ferro, which is, you know, the highest point of the Camino, where you can, you know, leave a gift. And I'm sure wherever Lee is now, he feels that peace and that love from you. And I'm sure you're going to give strength to a lot of other pilgrims that maybe are about to walk the Camino for similar reasons. Because let's be honest, a lot of us do walk it when, you know, we go on that epic journey with questions to answer. So I'm glad you were able to get some peace and maybe find some closure on that, and, you know, restore your faith. And I cannot thank you enough for giving me and all the listeners an hour and 10 minutes of your valuable time, especially when it's just come after you finish work for the day. So I hope your friends and family have enjoyed reliving your Camino as well through your story. And buen camino, fellow peregrino.
Oh, thank you so much, Brad.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And yeah, it's been brilliant. I cannot thank you enough for your time. You sound like you deserve a glass of wine now or something like that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Wanderer, the life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer.